Hey, Bloodworth here. This segment is cut out from the Easy Allies podcast, which we record every week. You can catch full episodes on Sunday mornings, or if you become a patron at $5 and up, you can get early access and get those on Fridays. Thank you and enjoy. All right, let's talk about some games. Tekken 8.
Yes.
Tekken 8.
It is out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mitch, you've been playing
the
it.
jacket.
Yeah, I brought the jacket.
Oh,
and the
they look
preview of
so
it.
good, Blood.
A little statue they had there too.
Show it off. Look at that
Nice.
wing. Wow.
Yeah. This has been really great. I am a complete newcomer, really. Before the preview event, I played through the Tekken 7 story mode, and we've had some things here in the office, some competitions and stuff, but really I've never dug into Tekken before, and so it's fun. But even there, I see the leap from the story mode in 7 to the story mode in 8. I've played through this whole story mode. I've started Arcade Quest. I've done some practice and stuff. And and then just seeing the reception around, it is really, really doing well.
9 from IGN.
Yeah.
Wow. Very nice.
But yeah, I feel like Tekken has kind of been around forever, and everyone who's kind of within my age has just had Tekken always around them. You go to an arcade. It's there. You put in a quarter, you smash the buttons, you have a good time. And that was kind of what Tekken was for me for a long time. This is not a fighting game that I consider myself particularly great at, but it's still a fighting game that I enjoy playing. And so Tekken 8 was kind of the game where I'm okay, this time I'm going to try to get good at Tekken. Because I've tried it before and I usually bounce out of it. Because Tekken, I think the thing that's so amazing about Tekken as a series is that it works on all the different levels. As a beginner, at a beginning level, it's fun because you can just get in there. There's hundreds of moves. It's fun to find what the moves are that work and just spam buttons, and you can have a good time just doing that. At an intermediate level, the combos themselves are not that hard. You can do pretty well just learning one combo and taking that online. And then at an expert level, it's just a completely different story. There's just so much tech to this game. Just movement itself is a skill that you have to learn.
Yeah.
So all that has always been really, really appealing to me. And then having this story mode is kind of, I think, the thing that I needed to really get myself invested in Tekken lore, because I think it's really a fantastic story mode, on par with what NetherRealm has been doing over the years. I think this is kind of the first time that a Japanese developer has really nailed that style of story mode. Street Fighter tried it with 5, didn't really work. But I think what makes Tekken 8 story mode so unique is that they don't just try to do what NetherRealm has been doing. They put their own spin on it. This is the NetherRealm story mode if you made it just anime.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're not getting into any of the spoiler parts, so don't worry about that. But it goes full on hard anime. By the time you get to the end of this, it is just wild.
Yeah. And one of the things I really appreciate about that is that it manifests within the actual combat. It's not just limited to cutscenes. You go into a fight and you'll do some damage, and then mid-fight there will be a transformation of the other enemy, and now you're fighting a completely different kind of battle. And there's mid-match cutscenes where if you land a certain move, the camera will shift and you'll hear a unique piece of dialogue. Yeah. It's just really, really smart, forward-thinking stuff for moving story modes and fighting games forward.
Yeah, and to that effect, the kind of thing of it's oh, you're beaten, but you're not beaten. And so there's a lot of playing around with life bars and stuff like that. And yeah, and Don, you played through the story mode to some extent too, right? Did you get the whole thing?
No, not the entire thing.
Okay.
But, I'm loving it very much. I'm very close. The thing I love about the story mode is not just like you said, Mitch, the production value is right up there with NetherRealm. You could even argue in some aspects it's exceeding it, I think, with the current MK1 if you put them toe-to-toe. The story mode in this is so good, not just because of the production values, but this actually, Tekken began in the 90s when the genre of just martial arts movies and as an extra genre was still really big, obviously, I think, and stuff. And so it's just so fun to have this, to me, feels like a movie from that time almost, but AAA budget, tentpole. I would love to see this adapted as a big screen picture because it's like entertaining in that way. You know what I'm saying? And so I've been loving it.
And one other thing I want to touch on is that, Mortal Kombat does the thing where it bounces around different characters in different chapters, and that's great in that from a gameplay standpoint, you're getting to try out a whole bunch of different characters.
Yeah.
Tekken 8 kind of focuses you in on Jin for like a majority of the game.
Yeah, I was just thinking that because like I do appreciate that. There are times where you sample other characters and you trade off. I do wish they had like let us capture Chapter 5 because I understand like beyond that like there's all kinds of crazy spoilers.
Yeah.
But like Chapter 5 in particular is like you have that tournament, the arena is like and you kind of go through a bunch of different characters and like you get to pick like which side you're gonna play while you go through that. And it's so funny to see these characters from around the world. One of the things that gets me though, Mitch, is they have this like weird dynamic where some of the characters just speak Japanese, but some of the characters speak their own language.
I love this. You like this?
I love it too.
You get an Italian guy speaking
inclusive.
Italian. You get a French guy speaking French. But then they all just understand like they have a babble fish. It is hilarious because
and they never explain like there's no like in-game explanation of like they all have like a thing in their ear that just automatically translates.
Right.
When you describe it though, it sounds like it would not be smooth, but don't you think it actually plays out really smoothly though? When it's first happening, you almost don't know.
Bizarrely smoothly. That's the problem, Don. It's like I think there's a point where like Azucena or somebody is like asking Leo where he's from, and like he speaks German. Like he's probably from Germany. Like you're talking in Spanish, he's talking in German.
It's funny though because it caught me off guard a little bit at first, but then just before the podcast, actually, I was watching some scenes, and Isla was over, and she's like, "Why is that guy suddenly talking German?" And then I said, I was like already totally tuned out to it. Like it didn't take long at all for me to just get used to it. At first, I was like, "Oh wait, what are they doing?" Then I was like, "Oh, this is neat."
Well, I mean, my favorite thing is that people understand King, who is a Mexican luchador who doesn't speak Spanish.
Just
he
Jaguar
speaks
growls. Yeah.
And yet everyone understands what he's saying.
It's funny too. A lot of like Paul, just in particular, speaking English, but like the way he like pronounces and mispronounces a lot of stuff. It's just like funny,
Yeah, Leroy's voice is great too. Yeah.
So they do a lot of good things, and all the voice acting is like really great. Like the accents are great. And
it's funny because I don't think Paul's voice is that great, but it fits within the context of the story because he is kind of portrayed as like this silly American who wouldn't. Why would he pronounce Kazuya correctly?
Right.
He's always like Kazuya.
I love it. Yeah, I like that.
There is one part, and I won't get into the story side of it, but just mechanically, they do this crazy thing where there's like this big, intense like group battle where you're like fighting like a room full of people essentially, and that is like the one part where it got like a little weird, a little rough for me. Like trying to figure out like who you're targeting at any particular time. I did have some characters in there like get frozen up in like T poses. As well.
What I'll say about that is that like I appreciate the ways in which Tekken 8 story mode experiments with like kind of different ways because it gets a little even the NetherRealm fighting games. They get a little formulaic with how they introduce battles. Like it's. Let's spar, or you insulted me, now we will fight, or it feels like they exhausted all the ways to get two people to fight a one-on-one battle, and so I appreciate the way Tekken kind of subverts that by experimenting a little bit with the formula. I don't think the section you're talking about is one of the stronger parts of it, but I still appreciate its inclusion because it is kind of like that break in the monotony of just one-on-one fights after one-on-one fight.
Yeah, it's a neat idea. Just the execution is a little rough. The other thing that's a little funny with the story mode is that the big bombastic cutscenes are running at like 30, and the gameplay is at 60. And so there will be times when a fight is coming just because the frame rate gets better. It's like, pick up the controller, get ready.
Yeah. But also, even though they're in, it's in 30, when it switches to cutscene mode, it looks phenomenal.
It's so good.
It looks really, really incredible. One other thing I want to touch upon is, there's the special style in this game.
Yeah.
And I think more so than that being a really great addition to like the actual combat outside of story mode, it's really, really good for story mode where you're going into different characters that you probably haven't played yet, and you get to, play a match and still use cool stuff. You're not just, fumbling around, looking at your move list, trying to figure out how to do like a basic combo. If you don't want to do that, you have the option of just turning special style on, mashing a button, and still have a good time.
Yeah, and to explain that, we talked about this in the preview too, but to explain how special style works is the L1 on the PlayStation controller switches you into special style. So normally, your face buttons are your punches and kicks, but when you switch to special style, the square button is now special moves, and it's almost like Smash Brothers, where it's like you square neutral is one move, square forward is another move, et cetera, et cetera. And then triangle will start an air combo. So like whatever that move, it might be a completely different input with a different character, but whatever move is going to launch somebody in the air, you'll do that with triangle. And then X is the power smash,
crush,
and then
circle is throw, probably, right?
Circle can throw or low attacks.
Yeah.
But what's nice is that you can toggle between them back and forth really quickly. So it's like if you're comfortable enough with like a lot of basic stuff with the regular controls, but then like you haven't memorized all of your special moves, you can kind of play with that back and forth.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, we're showing some of the practice mode here too. I was fumbling around with this with both Raven and Victor. And I really like all the stuff they do here. Like you can see like your full command list on there, what you're actually doing. You can pin something up to the top there. You can see all the stats. But the pin like really helps. And not only that, but you can have them do a demo. So you can see what does this move look like if you do it correctly, and then kind of compare. And it's like, and then that's the thing I was like struggling with, is figuring out the timing with like a lot of button presses. So some of the timing is like so quick, it's like almost like a roll between two buttons.
Yeah.
Some of it's so quick, and then it's funny how some of it you really need to like, oh, wait, as you're going through the combo. There's like, it varies, which is interesting, because like something like Mortal Kombat is usually like a very steady pace from like all the combos.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat, you pretty much just enter the whole combo string without worrying about timing, and then it just happens. This, you definitely have to, wait for the right moment to hit the button, and if you miss time that button press, then, you drop the combo.
Yeah.
Have you gotten to check out the replay stuff at all, or do you know about the replay stuff?
I know about the replay stuff. I haven't really checked it out, but it sounds cool.
So all the stuff that you've mentioned about the training mode, I think is pretty standard among like, top level AAA fighting games. The replay stuff, though, is where it gets insane, because you're able to, let's say, I have you and me have an online match. I can then go back into that match, and at any point where you do a move that is unsafe, it will tell me what an optimal punish is for that move. It'll like pause it. A combo will pop up, and then I'll be able to go into an actual training mode and practice that combo on a dummy.
So awesome!
It is unbelievable. I think like that is genre-defining stuff.
Yeah. And this, what's on the screen here too, is kind of cool too, because like they have these challenges for each character to like learn a bunch of different combos, and some of them are tough. Some of them, like, I don't know if I would like retain this information, but it is cool to have sort of like that thing of like, okay, let me do these challenges and see if I can pull them off, and they give you rewards and stuff for that too. There's some trophies and some banner things and all of that.
Yeah, Tekken is a very hard game to get into at like higher than an intermediate level. But I think Tekken 8 does about as good of a job as I can ever imagine it being done, of making that barrier of entry much more manageable.
Yeah. And they talk about that in the Arcade Quest too. It's like like one of the plot points is like, hey, we just want to have fun, and this other guy is like, competition is the only way.
And he's like the bad guy, right? Can we talk about Arcade Quest?
Yes,
because it's such a delight.
I love it.
I said I was on Kind of Funny talking about this game, and most fighting games struggle to have a good story mode. Tekken has 3 good story modes.
Yes,
and that's kind of crazy. So Arcade Quest, basically, the way I describe it is the plot of Pokemon if you were to apply that to fighting games.
Right.
You like everyone in this world is obsessed with Tekken. You go to different arcades across this little area, fight the gym leader. You experience a little mini arc within that little arcade, and then you move on to the next one. And what's also really, really cool about it is that they also use it as a way to teach you how to play Tekken. Every arcade has kind of a different lesson that they really drill into you, and it's not an overwhelming ramp up. Like they do a really good job of introducing really basic stuff at the beginning, and by the time you're at the end, you're learning how to do like air combos. You're learning how to do an air combo into a tornado, into like a catch, and then you're able to do like actual real cool Tekken combos in a way that's very easily taught and very easily understood. And it's just such a good mode. I love this mode so much.
And the way also, I think just like, the charmingness of the design of the arcades, and that you get not only all these challengers within each arcade that you can like fight against to raise your skills, but there's also just a bunch of like NPCs in the arcades that are just part of the story world there. Yeah. They're just bitten off. They'll just have 1 or 2 lines each, but it's just like really clever stuff for not just like arcade, like history, kind of historical stuff, or like cultural kind of stuff, but that did exist, but also just in this world of arcades that they create, like Mitch said, where it's like arcades are just part of like every facet of society kind of deal. Right. And there's like a lot of respect for that. It's just a part of culture, so, but you also get all these references to what like classic 90s, and early 2000s arcade.
Well, and what's great is like you can even see on the screens like little quick screenshots of like old like Xevious and Dragon Spirit and some of the old Tekkens are in there as well, and they've got a bunch of posters and figurines in there.
Little concession stands within the arcades. The arcade design gets like really over the top too. It gets like fantastical as well as you continue to progress in a really enjoyable way.
And there's really cool like progression to it too, because there are people you can fight that will give you customization options for your avatar. And the customization is not super deep, but it's still very cool to be able to win a new hat or whatever, and be able to say, oh, you know what, actually I'm gonna throw that on, if only because it proved that I won this fight.
Yeah, the arcade mode just works really good at keeping interested, especially for like for the single player experience, I think too, in keeping your interest there a little bit. And as opposed, to not be able to jump around like you're not in the mood for story mode, it's actually a lot more entertaining than I expected it to be.
And I think especially like if you start story and you feel like you're kind of struggling to get through some fights, like I would recommend going to Arcade Quest
100%,
because like Mitch is saying, like it really like goes through all the basics, teaches you all the systems. You can skip some of those tutorials; they could be an option for that too. But if you want to like get your like lay the groundwork for how this game works, like Arcade Quest is kind of the way to go.
Yeah, I think it's also a really good way to learn a character, because you're not in this mode, you're not required to choose Jin all the time. Like you can pick whoever you want. The lessons are kind of built around who your character is. So yeah, it's
and there's individual matches in there, and there's trainings, but there's also tournaments. So there's like a nice variety of sort of activities you're participating in too. So it's not it didn't get old at all. I was surprised how long it sustained my interest.
There's like an arcade that's all focused on people who treat Tekken as like a cosmetic thing.
Yes.
They're all about making the like really cool
high style.
Yeah, we have
showing
a clip
off
for the customization too. If you want to throw that on, there are so many weird.
It's that girl right there.
Crazy
She's
little
like
options
really
and
into
stuff.
it. Yeah.
There's some like sketch underground arcades too that are like super intimidating. Like talking about like only certain people could play on the machines and all this stuff. It's like really funny. Just a lot of humor in it.
So many different options and outfits and stuff.
And that's the other thing in the arcade. Yeah, you just come across like insane variety. You get a good glance at what there is, because there is a lot of customization for the characters themselves, not the avatars, but for the actual fighters in this game. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, let's go back to some mechanics. What do you think about the heat system? This is new. You have a blue bar under your health, and then at any point during the fight, you can activate it either with a button that's like dedicated to activating heat, or with certain moves will initiate heat. And then once it burns out, then like you don't have it until the next round.
Yeah, it's one per round. I'm always a big fan of mechanics that force you to make interesting decisions in fighting games, and this is definitely one of them. It's a it's a gamble to use your heat too early, because then you're left without it for the rest of the match. But also, like, you want to make sure that you're using it every round, because if you miss your opportunity to use it, you threw away your opportunity to maybe mount a comeback if you're, getting your butt kicked. I'm not, as I said before, like, I'm not a legacy Tekken player. I dabbled in Tekken 7, smashed buttons on pretty much every Tekken before that. So this is like the first time I'm really, really like trying to learn the mechanics and all that stuff. And, the idea of the rage system is to...
Heat system or rage?
Heat system. The idea of the heat system is to encourage aggression.
Yeah.
So it's meant to like get you in there. You can activate it, and you can use like a dash. And while you're in that dash stance, you are at frame advantage, which basically means it's your turn. If they try to press a button, you will practically always beat them. So it's a really good mechanic at like making sure you're getting in there and getting in someone's face and making it hard for them to get away from you. So yeah, I think it's a really cool mechanic. I think we'll obviously see how pros make use of it.
Yeah,
that will be the big test. But as someone who's just trying to learn the ropes, I've been enjoying it a lot. And also, I really like that every character uses it differently. Like for Kazuya, it allows you to do. There's a move called Electric Wind God Fist, and to do that normally, you would have to have like a just frame input. So you'd have to hit, the input command, and you'd have to hit two buttons at the exact same time. And it's a very technical move. But if you have heat mode activated, you'll get the electric version of it every single time.
Got it.
So it makes that character a lot stronger for a lower level player.
Yeah, and you do chip damage when people are blocking. There are moves that you can only do during heat, and then if you if you hit that R1 again, like you basically can like burn all of your heat with like one like essentially finisher, which is kind of similar to activating the rage art, but the rage is a little different because with rage it's like based on how much health you have left. So like the lower your health, the harder your rage is going to hit.
Yeah, and also opponent. Like you only get the access to your rage art when you have like I think 20, maybe like 15%
left.
Yeah. But that's your Hail Mary card. Like that's if they block your rage art, you're dead. If they block your heat special move, then it's fine. Like you're probably still even at advantage.
Right.
So that's kind of like the difference between those two moves. Rage arts also deal a massive amount of damage.
Is there some trick to these things that like they want you to push like 4 face buttons at the same time? Have you figured that out?
Get a stick.
There's probably a macro that you can press.
You gotta get a stick.
That's what I was wondering. Because I'm like, wait, because my hand just can't do that. I don't know what they're.
Yeah.
What the
I
deal
mean,
is with those.
there's definitely like the trigger buttons have some sort of combination of buttons attached to them, and if you press those buttons down at the same time, that's how you can do it. But yeah, I would say just. Get a stick, scrub.
Chat had a few questions.
Yeah.
2, basically. Like, how are the mind games in this? And how's the net code? Do we know either of those things yet?
I mean, mind games is typical Tekken. The thing about the heat system is that, like I said before, when you block a heat engager, you are at a frame disadvantage. So you basically have to guess what is coming next. It could be a throw, it could be a low, it could be a mid, and that puts you at a real bad spot because if you guess wrong, then you're going to take a lot of damage. If you guess right, then it's a good chance to like turn the tables because usually if someone overcommits, then you can punish them for a lot of damage. So there's always going to be that mind game element to it. As far as the netcode, from what I'm hearing online right now, it's struggling a bit.
Launch day woes. Did you get to be in the early session at all?
Yes, and it was fine. It was fine for me. I played a couple of people.
It was interesting because at the live event they made a real clear thing of like that they're using rollback netcode and it was a big deal and everything, but then it seemed to not be going so well.
Well, I mean, the thing about rollback netcode is that rollback netcode by itself does not mean that it's good netcode.
Yeah.
There are good implementations of rollback netcode. There are bad implementations of rollback netcode. Street Fighter V had rollback netcode and is considered to have like one of the worst online, environments of fighting games. Street Fighter 6, on the other hand, some of the best. Like I've very rarely had a laggy match of Street Fighter 6. Netcode is really a matter of how well you handle the bad connections and whether you can take a bad connection and make it feel like it's still a playable match. So yeah, I think it's too early to say for me how the netcode is of Tekken 8. I also didn't review this, by the way. Ronnie did our review at IGN. He's better than me at Tekken, I'll admit it. But yeah, I've still been playing it a whole bunch and having a really good time with it.
Yeah. Who are you gravitating to? And then with something like this, like, because you're kind of similar to me, where like not like a big Tekken player in the past.
Yeah.
Like, how do you sort of figure out like who you want to gravitate to and invest in?
For me, it's a combination of like how the character looks, like the vibe the character gives off, and also like does it mesh with my style of play. And right now, I'm really enjoying Azucena, the new coffee girl.
Yes.
I just think she's
Peru.
she's real fun.
She is fun, fast.
She's what?
Super fast.
Yeah, she's super fast. She's got like some cool stance things that she can do.
Yeah, that's something I've been learning with Victor. Is like, okay, you like go into like that back
stances
stance and then pull out
big.
the sword. Yeah.
As you
Stances
say,
are
it's so
big.
fun, right? Because she's MMA, so she has a lot of cool little like stand up, but she also has a whole bunch of rad grappling kind of, ground techniques. So
Yeah, she's got like
fun.
takedowns. She's got arm bars.
One of
she's
the new
got,
characters. Yeah.
She's got like a flying leg lock, which I really enjoy. So yeah, I'm really enjoying her. I haven't really explored the roster all that much. I'm always going to be a big King fan just because I love pro wrestling.
Yes.
So those are the two that I'm going with right now, but I definitely want to explore the roster a little bit more.
Don, did you have any?
It's funny because I was immediately attracted out of the new characters to Azucena, so that's who I got into at first. I was playing her quite a bit. But then after that, because I actually jumped on the story, I was like way more interested in arcade mode, so I've been playing most of that. But because it forces you to play as Jin for the most part in the story, I actually got quite a bit into Jin. So right now I have been playing, and in the past I was never really into Jin. For my Tekken history, I was like really into the early ones, but I fell off after Tag or whatever and like casually played, 5, 6, 7. And so it feels good to be jumping back on here. But Jin was like never a character in the past that I really was attracted to. So it's funny because this is the most I've played him out of any of them, but I've been enjoying it quite a bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
As I said, like right now so far, like in the practice mode, I've like messed around the most with like Raven and Victor.
Oh yeah, you were getting good with Raven, huh?
Yeah. Raven's got all the
Ninjas.
crazy Naruto Shadow Clone stuff going on. And similar, it's I don't know if I would necessarily consider it a stance, but you kind of like do this thing where he like goes down for like a second and then you follow up, and then those are like different Shadow Clone moves.
So cool.
And then Victor is just like, he's just got like a freaking
so
arsenal
cool.
on him. He's
Yeah,
got
he
these
is
little
cool.
knives that'll stab you, and like, you can just like combo with like, I think it's like right punch, like triangle. Just like triangle, and there's like a big old combo, right? Just a mad triangle. But he's got a freaking pistol that he pulls out. He, like I said, he does that
Shoots it
thing
like
with
John
the
Wick
sword.
style, like very close to him.
Does some great stuff with the sword, like a nice full set of moves that you can do with that.
Yeah.
And then during another one that kind of popped out to me while I was going through the story mode was Shaheen. So I want to go back to him and mess around with him a little bit more too. Damiani, you've been a little quiet over there. Sorry, I got you in edgewise.
Sorry,
I
I feel like
for Tekken?
Sorry, I haven't touched it. I was curious about. Only thing I was curious about is just the approach that it has to both like the casual level players, mid-core level players, hardcore. How does it do a good job of bringing in people at those levels? And I kind of always viewed Tekken as one of those like kind of like higher barrier to entry because it's fun to button mash, but to get anywhere, it feels like it might be a little bit more to get into. So you've kind of like Mitch and you guys have already kind of like answered all the questions pretty much for that. So I feel like I've someone on the outside looking in I feel like you guys did a pretty good job of explaining all that and why this one is getting the good reviews that it has. Although I did see a tweet from Harada that they're experiencing online errors in matchmaking and spectating right now due to very heavy stress on the servers, trying to say it's popular. But yeah, it's always comes for this game, especially with Bandai Namco's history with online games. It just comes back to netcode, and Mitch did a great job explaining. Like it's not the words rollback itself. Sorry, it doesn't just necessarily mean it's good. Like it has to actually be well implemented and not just be rollback netcode. So I think even saying those magic words, people are like, is it really going to work well this time, or are you just saying these words to make like appease us, and it's going to be the same story again? And obviously, we'll see when as more people are piling in to play it, how that goes down.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm glad you said Street Fighter 6 had a nice smooth launch, but it's hard for me because I feel like this is sort of the story most games. It's like they get that flood, and it's like no matter how hard you try, like they're just not prepared for people to be up there playing online.
Well, what I think Street Fighter 6 did so well was they had I think it was an open beta like the week before the game came out. And so they it was a huge stress
Tekken
test.
didn't have anything like that.
No, definitely
they had
not.
some earlier betas. Yeah, like a month or so ago.
Yeah, they Street Fighter 6 had an open beta while reviewers had keys, which was kind of like their way to test the online while in the review process. And I like made a tweet about it. Like that was the best experience as a fighting game reviewer that I've ever had with a fighting game, because I was able to test out how the online would work in a environment that would be similar to what it would be at launch, and I would love to see more fighting games do that.
Yeah, nice.